In today's video, I'm going to tell you some deceptive tactics that debt collectors are using right now to fool people into paying debts, to fool people into thinking that they can take legal action against them, to fool people into thinking that they could potentially be arrested solely because of the debt that they owe. Solely because of the debt that they owe. Now, I've made videos in the past talking about how you can be arrested for contempt, but that's way down the line if they get a default judgment or they get a judgment and you don't answer to the court when they request for you to come in, they can hold you in contempt. But I'm talking about in this video, we're talking about debt collectors now being so bold because of CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, has been gutted. 90% of the employees are laid off. I don't know what's going to be happening. A judge is supposed to be making a decision on it, but I think that they're going to be able, just because of the so-called waste, fraud, and abuse, and the ability of the executive branch to lower the amount of employees that the government has, that department is going to be gutted. But I have a picture here of a document that was sent to an individual who reached out to me, and they are under stress. Imagine you own a home, you did a refinance or a modification, you're settled in, and then years later, we're talking about 12, 13, 14 years later, you get a letter stating that they're going to try to sue you. You get a letter stating that they're coming after you for this debt. And then when you read into the letter, it actually states that they cannot take any legal action to collect on the debt. That they're actually admitting, and you can see on this letter, I have it highlighted, that the debt is past the legal statute of limitations. But let me tell you why they do this way. And I'm going to use a football and a basketball, or let me just use a basketball analogy. When I'm a Milwaukee Bucks fan and they lost to the Indiana Pacers, I was right there at the games, and I'm like, here is the problem. My wife and I were like, here's the problem, is that Milwaukee they don't have an offense. They don't have no type of offense. All they do is throw it to Giannis, or somebody comes down the court, dribbles up the court, and then shoots. Or they might do a couple of passes, but there's no offense. And what I mean by offense is that they're not doing anything to get the other team out of position. So how does that relate to what happened with this individual with this debt collection letter? Is that they tried to do the same thing. They sent them multiple documents that was used to get them out of position of understanding the whole picture after everything was said and done, that they could not do any legal action to collect on this debt, regardless of all of the documents that they sent. But they did that to get that individual out of position. They did that to get them out of position. Because if they can get you focusing on something else, and not focus on, you don't even have to pay this debt. And I've talked about this in every video at the end. I talk about checking the statute of limitations, but it's not just about knowing the statute of limitations. It's about knowing what you got to do to stop them from trying to collect a debt that's past the legal statute of limitation. So on this document, it specifically states that please be advised that we cannot bring a legal action to collect this debt or threaten to do so in the state of California because the statute of limitations has expired. If you make payment, which it could be if you choose to make payment, we may be able to take legal action, because if they make a payment, they're going to reset the statute of limitations. So it specifically states here, if you choose to make a payment, the state statute of limitations, because the payment may start a new statute of limitations. I want everybody to be careful. If you haven't done it yet, like this video, share this video, because they are about to start doing this stuff. And the way that they're doing it is to be able to get people out of position, and they're sending multiple letters included with their letter for the debt, and way at the bottom it has that way at the bottom. So just think, if you see stuff And you know how we can be. We can read everything at the beginning. We don't read it fully. And then right there at the bottom, which should release all of the stress and pressure off of an individual because they're reading that. But if they get you out of position, even if you read that, like this individual who read it, they were like, yes, they can't do it because it's past legal statute of limitation, and they pointed it out, but I'm worried. I'm afraid. I don't understand what to do.
New visitor.
So let's talk about these. Debt collectors getting caught up in lies. They're using different tactics to get people upset. They're getting people afraid, getting people worried. So let's go through what they are doing so you can be aware of it. Some debt collectors resort to making false threats, claim that you could be arrested or sued immediately. That is not true. They misrepresent themselves. They misrepresent themselves as law enforcement or attorneys, and they're not attorneys. They could just be a debt collection agent that works for the attorney. They inflate the debt by demanding more than what is owed or including unauthorized fees. There's going to have to be a lot. You're going to have to do your homework on this stuff. But I'm just going to kind of go broad strokes over what you need to watch out for. Phantom debts, attempting to collect on debts that don't even exist. I had an individual reach out to me about this. You need to know your rights. Under the Fair Debt Collections Practice Act, you have a right to request a validation/verification of the debt, and you need to do that in writing. And you need to do that the right way. I'll talk about a solution on how to do that. To protect yourself from harassment, you need to tell them that any contacts that are made outside of the way that you want them to contact you, and we advise people to do it, to tell them to send everything in writing so you won't have any misunderstanding about what's being said, that anything outside of that, you will consider that harassment, but that has to be in your letter, your debt validation verification letter. Also, they must tell you that you have a right to dispute any or all of the debt, any or all of it. In that letter that they send to you, they must tell you that. If they don't tell you that, they're in violation, at least for what's the standard right now with the rules that the CFPB has in place. I don't know if they would enforce them, but there still is a rule on how they have to put together that debt validation letter. I can tell you that this debt letter that they sent to this individual is not the standard that was under the rules of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. You don't have to take my word on it, and I advise you don't take my word on it. Go look for yourself. At the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, all debt collection letters have to be the same. Just the information is different, but they had a standard form. I can tell you right now, this one was received, and it is not that standard form. It is not the standard form. So there might be some things that's going down, or they're just taking some chances because there's no oversight right now. You can tell them to cease communications by phone. That does not mean that they're going to cease trying to collect on the debt. They could sue you if the debt is valid for them to be able to sue, not past legal statute of limitations. So I tell people, tell them to cease calling you, to only communicate with you by phone. Now let's talk about some steps. And I just briefly went over them. Steps to protect yourself is, these are actionable steps that you need to take, is you request a written validation verification. I'm going to tell you how to do that. Don't provide any personal information until they verify what they send you in writing. And then you verify that against what that account the original creditor had. You need to try to find those records. Anything that they send you, you need to keep those records if they decide to move forward, especially if that debt is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. And then any violations that they have, go ahead and report them to the CFPB, but also if it's on your credit reports, report that directly to the credit reporting agencies. And also you can do this: if the debt was purchased and you see a violation, you can report that to the company, the original creditor, because they may have some sort of stipulations in the debt that they sell that the debt collector cannot do anything to violate the rights of those individuals, because they can still be held liable for sharing your information and it was abused by that debt collector. So now, if you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch a video of what makes us different so you can see my 8-point validation process, my two-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, I'm going to give you 2 ways. First, go to summonsmaster.com. You can upload your debt collection letter, and it will create what I call an exclusive certified debt validation letter. All you have to do is sign, date, and send that certified mail to the debt collector. It can stop them. If you have debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect, there's a link below here. You can grab my 3-pack of letters. They're free. I do ask for a donation on those because they can save you time, money, and frustration. There's a statute of limitations letter on there where all you have to do is notify them. No debt validation is needed for a debt that's past the legal statute of limitations to collect. Just like this individual, they were thinking, okay, even though they told me that the debt is past legal statute of limitations to collect, should I do a debt validation? No. No debt validation is needed for a debt that's past the legal statute of limitations to collect. All you have to do is notify them, cease all collection activities. They just said it right there. They just said it right there. And if you don't have a moral obligation, if you believe you do not have a moral obligation to pay them for a debt that's past the legal statute of limitations for them to be able to collect, all bets are off and you don't have to pay them, and you can tell them cease all communication. But you must do that with a letter that's notifying them that you know that they know, and you can also put a copy of the letter that states it from their own letter that they cannot collect on it. And you want them to cease all collection activities for that debt because it's past the legal statute of limitations for them to be able to collect, for them to be able to sue according to the laws in your state. Thank you for your time. Subscribe to the channel. Post your questions and comments. This is Stephen A. Williams, President and Founder of thecreditrepairshop.com.